I'm reading today from Path to Happiness, and we're opening up the chapter on conflict, a controversial topic, and my proposition is that conflict is good. If we can maintain a degree of consciousness as we go into this, then we resolve things, we move on, and this is all about the word goodbye in the 7-word system. So the first key word is realization. We have to understand what's going on, realize the situation before we can make a decision. Realization is the process of exposing an illusion. A realized person can expose illusion. There was a time before the internet when the propaganda machinery was very effective in covering things up, and very few people knew what was really going on. Things changed very quickly when ordinary people gained access to ideas and facts intentionally hidden from them previously. It was all the more so before the invention of the printing press. In the West, before the Gutenberg Bible, the general population would not read and had no ability to wrest control of their own thought processes from the priests. The Renaissance period, significantly triggered by the expansion of reading, can be identified linguistically. In previous literary works, the prefix self was very rarely used. By the introduction of the prefix, as in self-realisation, self-worth, self-satisfied, and so on, we are shown how self-awareness was developing rapidly at that time in history. We see from this how information develops self-awareness. In fact, it is a requirement of it. As a result of the internet, we are expanding our awareness further. We are now much more aware than ever that the processes of communal decision-making, government, military, and big business, are in no way structured or indeed intended to serve the general population at all. The extent of the corruption is shocking, and the acts of inhumanity which have been carried out secretly are truly terrible. Facts are constantly coming to light that are destroying the illusion that we are living under the authority, a fundamentally good authority that is designed to serve us. Beyond politics, though, whatever parts of life that are not working well for you need to be examined carefully. What are the facts of the matter? Putting aside feelings and linguistic evidence for the moment, what is actually occurring? Does your lover really behave lovingly towards you? Does your employer really show tangible appreciation for what you do? Does evidence show that your children are really free from harmful influences? Are you really honest about your feelings, honest with yourself, honest with others? Realization occurs the instant that conscious intelligence replaces unconscious ignorance. Very often it is a eureka experience, a momentary pop of awakening, and yet there is usually a history of indications. It is the normal, though dysfunctional, condition of humanity that we block out any information that will make us remember certain feelings that still trouble us from childhood. So, wherever there are signs whose implications are disturbing for us, then we are inclined not to see them. Pointers are often small and ambiguous. He lingers for another drink at the club. She takes a second too long to laugh at his joke. We breathe more heavily after climbing the stairs. The phone rings a little less often. And one day perhaps something becomes glaringly obvious, or perhaps we are simply ready to face truth at last. Change is in the air. It is very important to become quite specific about the exact information and the conclusions drawn from it. In that we are probably facing up to childhood issues, it is highly likely that objectivity is in short supply. For example, his late drinking could be entirely the result of stress at work. It need not be that he no longer loves you and has another more beautiful girlfriend who is pregnant with his baby. In fact, the realization here may be that your suspicion borders on paranoia, and it is that which drives him towards the bottle. What replaces this type of exaggerated pessimism is realism. Realization is realistic, not fanciful. We are awakened into our investigative mode. We want to ask questions and challenge the answers until we are completely satisfied that we know the truth. When we have it, this is felt in the body. There are likely to be other feelings. Perhaps we feel betrayed, sad, or angry, but one of them is that in some way we actually feel more relaxed. The body has been having to tense itself against untruth, which intuitively it classifies as a kind of subtle psychic poison. And yet, when realization is deep and truly authentic, then the body sinks into reality, like a homecoming. This probably holds the key to reaching deeper awareness, that the physical body has better access than the mind to the undercurrents of atmosphere within scenarios. And this is where to begin the investigation. The mind is so mercurial, it is not fixed upon much, and is so easily pushed around and often deceived. This is particularly true of the mind of a deceiver, and we are all that at times, even if the condition is of self-deception rather than lying. The analysis of facts is helpful and of crucial importance to prove the case, but the motivation is our suspicion that all is not well, and the subsequent yearning for the end of the tense atmosphere of untruth. This is a feeling. We feel that something is not quite right, not as it should be, not what we are told. And this stops us from feeling entirely relaxed and trusting. We all live in our little bubbles. That which we feel we can deal with is included, all else lies outside. What interests us is in. What we find tedious is out. The bubbles are created and maintained by our focus of attention. We simply ignore what we can't or won't relate to. We actually train our perception and the mechanics of interpretation to not get the outside data. It is not heard, not seen, not inferred, and not understood. As we grow in consciousness, so the bubbles expand to embrace more of all that is. Or perhaps a better image is that they grow until they pop and leave us enclosed in a bigger bubble. Realization is the popping of the bubble. Here we reach an interesting stage of personal development, the shibboleth of the seeker, the litmus test. When the bubble pops, some people collapse like the popped bubble, and others feel the expansive freedom exhilaration of the richer reality that replaces it. If we are strong of faith, then we believe that all change is good, indicating the greater joy which is certain to come, albeit sometimes indirectly as a result. The moment of realization is a watershed. We are unable to refute the evidence any longer. It is the case, and that's that. Approaching this watershed, time takes on an intriguing quality. Perhaps the passage of time has seemed routine and lackluster, yet it starts to speed up and spark with life force. Urgency elbows its way through a jumble of complacency, demanding something real. The acceleration continues, and it becomes inevitable that some major event is approaching, that a life shift is imminent. This feels exciting or stressful according to our personal approach to life and stage of development. We can become more perceptive to the clues through training. Generally speaking, any group process involving a spiritual dimension will help. Meditation, martial arts, or sacred dance are all helpful, as too could be a 12-step meeting, a Christian prayer group, or even a knitting circle, if focused with the intention to support personal growth. Truthful though they may be, friends and families tend not to be sufficiently objective, but judicious feedback from non-involved peers can be hugely productive if we can put the ego aside to hear what is being said to us. Such feedback encourages or forces us to look at the situation differently. Therefore, we will indeed see it differently, often stripped of illusion. Why should we bother to look below the surface of things? Surely trouble will find us in its own good time. Indeed, this is exactly the point. Trouble will catch up with us. Whatever is false will eat away at the foundations of our life and render insecure what we love and what we need. In the end, truth will out, and any delusions, any decisions based on false assumptions must fail. Nonetheless, despite this, the vast majority of people are living in denial of what is actually going on for them. Their lives are false. This creates such tension between mind and body that both thoughts and feelings are corrupted. Often the voice, that which marries the two, sounds flat or stressed and cannot carry sincerity or joy. The bubble they live in cannot reconcile with much else, and so it shrinks, even at a fairly young adult age. Life then becomes a circuit of routines that obfuscates and confuses what is true. The mind cannot reason, and feelings become sentimental replicas of what is shown as normal on soap operas or in their own set. Love, truth, and happiness are all constrained or completely forfeit. To awaken ourselves to the real situation in hand requires not only worldly wisdom, but also some sense of eternity, some input from the soul's perspective. And so we use the wazifa pair Ya Hakim, divine wisdom, with Ya Qayyum, the eternal truth of our being, the eternity of soul. Ya Hakim, Ya Qayyum. 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 Ameen.